Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. Great to see some familiar faces and also to meet some new families as well. My name is Jean Weinberg. I'm the co-founder of Jack's Tomorrow, along with my husband, Kyle Czepiel. I'm also really proud to be joined by Xander Farnum, also a fellow PURA parent. His daughter Colette was diagnosed just recently. He sits on our board, and Andrew Steinsapir, who is part of our scientific advisory board and has lent hundreds of hours to studying PURA and thinking about PURA with us. So I don't know how many coffees I can procure to say thank you, but we are really grateful for having your smart mind thinking about PURA along with us. Our son Jack was diagnosed in 2019. He was about a year and a half. I'm happy to say he celebrated his 8th birthday last week, which I thank you. I feel like as a PURA mom, I take nothing for granted. I take no birthday for granted. So we went all out and we had a school party and a friend party and a family party. And we celebrate Jack every minute we can. And all of the small milestones and anything he does is exciting for us. So when we received our diagnosis in 2019, and some of you may have had this experience as well, our neurologist looked at us and she said, he will never walk and he will never talk, and that there's no treatment and there are no options. So we started Jack's Tomorrow. We have a very singular, narrow mission, which is to fund research, find the smartest scientists that we can to find a treatment for PURA syndrome. That is our sole mission. And I just want to also say thank you to Liz and Eva for having us here today. And it has been such an amazing collaboration with you guys. And we so appreciate how our PURA Syndrome Foundation and Jack's Tomorrow have been working together. And we plan to continue to do that. So while Jack is, of course, the reason we started Jack's Tomorrow, it's really about our tomorrow. Some of you I know saw the New York Times story. It was referenced this morning. It was incredibly inspiring to see such a breakthrough happen at CHOP, not too far from where we live in New York. However, that was for one baby. And what we are working on at Jack's Tomorrow is for all kids and adults impacted by PURA syndrome, not for one baby or for one child. We're really proud to highlight our current partners. We have the Jackson Laboratory, which is a best-in-class biomedical research facility located in Bar Harbor, Maine. They were amazing enough to take on creating a PURA mouse model. Last year, some of you may have heard from Vincent Pons. He was in Chicago at the conference and spoke about that model. Since then, this model has shown a phenotype, which in short is that it's very obvious that the mouse is diseased. And therefore, we have a place to work from with regard to trying a therapeutic that could potentially mitigate and take down some of the symptoms. That is one piece. Any scientist can order those mice. They are available. They're free. You can order them on the website. This is incredibly important because we want more people at the table thinking about and waking up with the goal of how we're going to treat PURA syndrome. To Yale School of Medicine, Dr. Zhang from Yale was here in Chicago last year. He's incredibly brilliant. Sometimes I cannot follow everything that he is saying because he is maybe 10 times smarter than me. However, his team, Jack's Tomorrow, is funding them to essentially study the PURA mice to see their behaviors, how they do with certain tests, and try to get sort of a good characterization of this is what a typical mouse looks like, and this is what a diseased mouse looks like. Again, with the goal of how we can potentially make those symptoms less bad, less terrible. Moving on, our approach. So first and foremost, we believe in transparency. Our partner releases are on our website. We are very upfront about the people we're working with, and that transparency is something that we demand from our partners. It is simply non-negotiable to us. Collaboration, as I mentioned earlier, we are incredibly collaborative. We want to work with the different amazing organizations. It was great to hear from Mel just a moment ago that are also thinking about PURA syndrome every single day and who are impacted by this personally and who are living with this every day. Inclusivity, we want to hear different points of view. We want to hear from different researchers. We do not know everything. And so it's really important to us that everyone has a seat at the table and that we are all talking. Last but not least, resourceful. I was recently in New Orleans for the American Society of Gene and Cell Therapy. This is a meeting I had never attended before. And I attended because our mouse model that I just referenced was featured as part of this world-class meeting. Thousands of scientists, the sort of Oscars of science, basically, or the Emmys. And what I came away with was the fact that other rare diseases like PURA, other neurodevelopmental disorders like SDX-BP1 or Angelman syndrome or SYNGAP, you may have heard of some of these. Some of Jack's classmates actually are impacted by these diseases. These other rare diseases are at the table working on figuring out the same issues that we are. So that includes dosage sensitivity. That was raised earlier, right? Too much PURA, is that bad? What does that look like if we express too much PURA protein? Crossing the blood-brain barrier. Selena raised that this morning. Other rare diseases also faced with the similar issue are figuring this out as we speak. And that was really impactful for me in New Orleans. We are not alone. And so by resourceful, I mean, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We absolutely can borrow from what each other are doing. It's incredibly important. We don't want to repeat efforts that stalled for years. We want to learn from each other. We were fortunate enough to meet Allison Berendt, who's the Chief Science Officer for Angelman syndrome. She is one of the most inspiring women I have ever met, and she is pushing the science forward for Angelman syndrome. They have 23 therapeutic tracks. Angelman syndrome is not that different than PURA. It is also neurodevelopmental. Their kiddos also happen to be generally pretty happy and sweet like ours, like Jack. So I think not reinventing the wheel is incredibly important. Our executive board, Xander Farnum, we're really glad that you could be here, and has been amazing being on this journey with you since your diagnosis with Colette. And we really appreciate your passion, and thank you. So we're continuing to grow our board. This is our scientific advisory board. We just brought on last week Dr. Mike Boland. For some of you who follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook, his picture might look familiar. His son is impacted by STX-BP1, another similar disorder. And we feel incredibly grateful to have these smart minds with us at Jack's Tomorrow, because when we get proposals from Yale or from Sick Kids in Toronto, we have this collective group that are helping to evaluate those proposals, helping Kyle and I understand what are those tough questions. Are there things we're missing? They work in labs every day. What are the tough questions that we need to address before we could potentially look at moving forward? So we want to be really good stewards of the resources. Before I turn it over to Andrew Steinsapir, I just also want to mention, just thank you so much for all of your support. It has been amazing. Andrew is going to talk a little bit about, because during his professional day job, he is a gene therapy lead And so he is going to talk a little bit about the puzzle pieces needed in order to get us from today to that New York Times piece.
Thank you so much, Jean. And like, truly, it's a pleasure to get to be here. Yes, let's give a huge hand. It's a pleasure to get to be here. I really appreciate your time and attention. My name is Andrew Steinsapir. I'm a volunteer. And in my day job and throughout my career, I've had the pleasure and privilege of working on about 80 different therapeutic products. That means things that are in early research, things that are in clinical trials right now, and things that are approved drugs. That's rare. I only got here because I was lucky I had the right people to hold the door open for me. So I could get into the room and do those things. And it's been my goal to make sure that throughout every opportunity that I have, I hold that door open for others as well. I think it's important. The thing that I want to get across for everyone here is that the things that we need to do to move things forward, that's not some secret knowledge. It's out there. Other people have done it, and it's publicly available. When I think about how promise can meet progress, I think about what we can do to develop those drugs. We know that there are only 7 questions we have to answer before we move a therapy into trials with the FDA. We know exactly what those questions are. We have really smart people that we're working with that can help us answer those. And when it comes down to it, it means that these things are within our reach. It used to be that we would go from finding a gene or naming a disease, and it would take decades to think about even starting a therapeutic development. Now we are in the world where we can find a gene, we can start doing development and potentially have things in clinic in years, not decades. We've made sure when thinking about this, we're thinking about an approach that uses AAV. You've heard a little bit about this earlier. I think Selena did a wonderful job talking about everything that exists and all the different opportunities that are out there. She called out one of the most critical ones, which is how do we get the things that we want to get to the places we need to get them? How do we give new software to ourselves that help us make more PURA? We have access to an AAV that can do that, that we have free access to because the company that's doing it, company that I help lead, is making sure that there's access to folks in the rare disease space at no cost, because our goal is to make sure that people can have access to these things and have equity and having help moving them forward. We have these tools. We know what we need to do to move them forward. And critically, we have a roadmap and we know exactly what experiments we need to run in what order to move things forward. I'm going to be the first person to say that science is not always a straight line. But when we know what that path looks like and we have guides along the way, we can get there together and move them ahead. I think one of the most exciting chances I've had in my career is to work more with rare disease groups rather than working with biotechs and pharma. Not that they're bad, but because there's a singular purpose. It's been my experience that some groups might say across a PURA or any other disease, subgroup 1 might say, we think that A, B, and C matter the most in that order. And another group might say B, A, and C matter in that order. And another might say C, A, and B matter in that order, but every single person there agrees that A, B, and C matter. And it's so exciting to see all of these presentations, all of these different groups moving us forward together. This is the way that I think we're trying to contribute in moving something ahead that we hope can bring hope to everyone here and give a singular purpose to drive therapies forward. I'm going to make sure that I hand it back to Jean. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew. Your dedication to working on PURA as a volunteer has been nothing short of exceptional. There's a lot to do here. As you can see, we need all of the help that we can get. This is a 24/7 dedicated effort. And so anything that you could do, we're having a golf outing in September in New York. If you are not a golfer, we added pickleball this year. Come have fun, or if you're not in the New York area, you can also consider sponsoring a hole or becoming a corporate sponsor. And you can follow up with us. There's also information on our website. Last year, we were able to raise $180,000 through this event. So it really is our marquee major fundraiser of the year. And it's great, obviously, to also continue to raise awareness about PURA syndrome, because I think that's sort of the first step, which is getting people to understand sort of what you're talking about after all. Before I close, I just want to share, this is our QR code. You can take your phone out, you can grab a picture of that QR code, and it'll take you right to a form to get our monthly email. We don't spam people, we don't send too many. So once a month, you'll get an update with some of these important research notes from our partners. Jack's Tomorrow is on Facebook. You can follow us on Facebook. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. And then you can also follow a bit more about Jack's journey. It's less foundation specific, but more about Jack's journey and his therapies, some of the sort of the day in life of Jack through Instagram. But I'm really proud to announce that since we launched in 2022, we have raised $1,055,000. And so, thank you. We're not going to stop. As Andrew said, these pieces are known. What has to happen is not a mystery. And I really, when I came out of that gene therapy conference in New Orleans, I was more energized than ever to know that other groups, some of them, again, several years ahead, are doing this. It is happening now. So thank you, and please follow us, and we'll be around if anyone has questions. Check our website. We also had a briefing in April with our scientists. So if you're looking for more sort of nitty-gritty on what Yale is doing or Jackson Lab, you can check on our website for that April briefing, which is public and free for anyone to view. So thank you so much.